Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it morning?
It is still morning. It's 11 a.m.
It's morning. Good morning, guys. Welcome to We Don't Do Small Talk. I am Miss Roy.
I am Royal Color Games.
And it's been a hot minute since we've been back. Well, maybe a cool minute. There have been a couple of times that it's been a hot minute. It's been a cool minute since we've been back. Oh, look! You brought our faces without me having to say anything. Whoop, whoop.
Quick disclaimer. I have some upper respiratory infection, so I'm going to apologize in advance for the sniffles in the gravelly voice.
I had the same thing earlier this week, so my voice may also be trash, but we're here. When you're here, your family.
So today's topic. Hold on. Oh yeah, housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
Housekeeping? What is that? What are you doing?
It's a UV light.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I got my nails done last week because we had a wedding that we went to over the weekend, and I could not stop staring into the little UV light that, dries your nail gel. Roy's got a wrist injury, so he's putting his Velcro on and trying to keep it out of the microphone unsuccessfully. But yeah.
Yeah, it's old. You gotta rub the Velcro.
Yeah. Is that why?
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't stop staring into the little UV light, and I kept having to tell myself to stop staring into it. Okay, so for housekeeping, we don't have much-ish, because I failed to write it down, but we are still going to be putting up the last video for the last episode. I haven't had the spoons to edit it or anything like that, so
it's been hell around here. So.
It has been utter chaos. But you will have your video soon, and next weekend, fingers crossed, we may be recording a bonus episode so that we can get a Halloween episode in before Halloween, because otherwise it would be recorded after Halloween. We do have an extra babysitter kind of sort of now, so we might be able to do an extra episode next week, and it'll be a ooky spooky one for the Halloweens. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Today's topic. Roy?
Oh, standard disclaimer. Anything that we say here is wild conjecture at best. There is some truth to it. Do your own research. Don't take anything we say completely to heart.
We're doing our best, but we also have ADHD and memory problems.
So, today's topic, Miss Roy,
is wartime fakes, feints, and fails. So we're talking about hilarious projects that just got pulled out of somebody's ass.
Someone pitched an idea that had no business being pitched, and their higher-ups said, that sounds great, even though it was ridiculous.
Or their higher-ups didn't know, and they were just like, send it.
Anything from inflatable tanks to aircraft carriers made out of ice and newspaper.
Wait, okay. I was wondering if you were going to talk about that. Cool. Sweet. Okay. So since you just mentioned that, why don't we talk about that?
The aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
The Pykrete?
So it was the... I'm going to butcher this name. It was the Habakkuk. Habakkuk?
I have no idea.
It was the Habakkuk, and it was English.
The U.S. also had an ice ship program as well.
Yes. And that was the prototype-ish one that the English went off of. Now, the English were let's just make it a full iceberg.
Yep.
And
they were going to take an iceberg, hollow it out, put an engine on it, and launch aircraft from the surface.
Yep.
The U.S. tried to actually build actual ships out of ice and wood pulp.
Yes. Which is Pykrete.
Pykrete, which is ridiculous. I think Mythbusters did an episode on Pykrete.
That's why I know that word. Okay, so the The thing is, the reason that this kind of got abandoned and... Am I close enough to you?
You're good.
Okay. Well, my face keeps disappearing. It was so time consuming. What?
I hit down and enter, and then it's decided to not.
You're gonna have to pull up the...
Yeah, I'm working on it, woman. I know what I'm doing.
Bullshit.
Let's see if we can't find a picture. Yeah, the Habakkuk. There's a YouTube video on it.
Oh. Pause. We will
Paused.
get back to this in just 1 second. If you guys are into stuff like this, and this time, like crazy war stories, crazy history stories, wild things that soldiers have done, or animals, or anything like during war or wartime, military history at its finest.
Fat Electrician.
So
He's
if you
on
guys,
YouTube. He's got a podcast. Look him up. He's great. He's hilarious, and he does really intense deep dives. And he doesn't have as bad ADHD as us.
Yes.
So you might actually learn something.
Yes. So check out Fat Electrician. He's great if you want deeper dives into this type of stuff and accurate information. So yeah, the Habakkuk. It was originally going to be all ice.
Yep.
And then they were like, the English was, it was Winston Churchill. He was like, okay, well, let's go see what the Canadians and the Americans have done in this realm. And
There's the test field.
they were finding the Pykrete situation. Hey, we're sitting on the test field. Boop, boop.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And everything was just so incredibly time consuming because you had to freeze it. If you weren't like carving it, you had to freeze it.
With Pykrete.
Yes. And then in order to get rid of it, you had to thaw it. And it took months.
That was the point, is not to have to thaw them until after the war.
Yeah, but they were trying to thaw them. I think they were running an initial experiment on how
they wanted to know how long the boat would be viable in warmer water.
Yeah, and it took a while. It took a good portion of time. What is that?
That's Pykrete.
Oh, I thought not my fat ass thinking it's food. It looks like a rice ball, and I was ready to be like, ooh, can we make that recipe?
It was literally asking how we could take water and industrial sawdust, industrial waste from making wooden airplanes,
Right.
and turn it into an aircraft carrier or destroyer. I think the U.S. was trying to build an ice battleship, and then the Canadians are like, well, maybe we can make an ice aircraft carrier, and then the Brits are like, why make the ice? Let's go to the north with an icebreaker ship, carve off a section of the ice shelf, plop a control tower on it, slap a motor on it, and putter it in the northern waters.
Yeah.
So it would have been a northern thing, because that boat would have lasted for years, because icebergs can survive all the way down to the equator if they're large enough. Thermal mass and whatnot.
So do you want to stick with ice, or do you want to stick with weird stuff the English came up with?
Either direction, you pick.
Okay, so let's say ice. The opposite problem that they had. So, Project Iceworm.
Okay.
So we're talking Cold War, and we're worried about the Russians.
Yes.
What's new?
Suka, pliet.
And so they decided that they were going to try and bury rockets and nukes in the ice at the poles by drilling holes and creating underground tunnels to store things, and it was going to have places for people and blah blah blah, and it went way over budget as per usual.
Sounds about right.
And then they had the opposite issue that they had with the Habakkuk, and it started disintegrating because they put so many holes in it. The structural stability of it was trash.
I haven't actually heard about this one.
Yeah, so this is Project Iceworm. I want to say it was the Americans, but it was, in general, not the Russians.
This is why aliens won't visit us. Every time they look down, we're doing something weird with a material that has no business doing the thing. Nuclear power plant under Greenland's ice cap.
Yeah. So,
Neat.
They were just like, okay, let's keep drilling, and it was not cute. It was collapsing. So they scrapped it and said, no, we're not going to do that.
Russia once drilled a hole 7% the way through the Earth's mantle.
And how deep is it? I can't remember.
Something super deep borehole.
Well,
I'm going to look it up. The world's deepest hole.
I need it in not meters.
12 kilometers.
Anything but the metric system?
12.3 kilometers to miles. For us, not over the pond. In freedom units,
okay, I thought it was
7.6 miles.
I thought it was 7 miles, but I couldn't remember, and I was thinking that was too high of an estimation.
It's about the depth of the Marianas Trench.
Just a little bit deeper, but that is the deepest we've ever gotten into the Earth. Did you know?
We've already lost our topic.
It's okay. We'll get back to it. I hate the fact that you told. I hate the fact that you told me that the Earth's core is only theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. It makes me angry. Like, it's not...
There's a lot of data to support it. The theory has not been disproved, but it is still a theory.
Right.
Gravity is also still a theory.
I know.
I'm so stuffed. I'm so sorry for the sniffles.
But, okay. Back to our topic. Yeah?
Aliens.
So we just played with ice. Let's go with fire.
Would that be a fail?
So in my thought, that is a fail. I'm currently in the fail section because you know more about bluffs.
Yes.
And I know...
Figs and feints are my go-to.
Yes.
I love that stuff.
Yes. And I love the fails. Love the fails. I did give you right here. That's a whole bunch if you're missing some.
Ooh.
Some rattly ones in your brain.
Look at that.
So, sun gun.
Sun gun? I might need more detail.
Okay.
Is that where someone tried to use mirrors to melt people?
You betcha.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so Nazis.
Could we even say that on YouTube?
I don't know, but you were waiting to choke. I was waiting for you to choke on your tea with that one.
Fucking Nazis.
So, the idea was they were going to put a giant mirror in orbit made of one of the really, really dangerous metals.
Okay.
One of the very...
Mercury?
I don't know. It wasn't mercury. It was one of the really reactive ones. It wasn't sodium.
Cesium, sodium, potassium, magnesium. And that's not super dangerous on its own.
What's the really, really sketchy one?
Oh, I don't remember.
But okay.
Potassium's pretty fucking sketchy.
Right. But anyway, they were going to put a giant mirror in space made of one of these hyper reactive metals.
Uh-huh.
They were going to be manned by Nazi space laser. They were going to be manned by, astronauts in magnetic boots.
Nazi sun gun.
Yep. They were going to be manned by astronauts in magnetic boots so they could take care of it. There was going to be a space station attached to it where they created all of their own oxygen via plant life.
If only they knew how not easy that was.
Yeah. So what happened was the Allies, we just kind of shut them down.
Helio beam.
Space mirror.
Yeah, helio beam was another name for it.
Okay. I still want to know what it was made of. Anyway. That was their plan, and we shut them down because, dude, I feel like we wouldn't have needed to, stop them. I feel like we just would have needed to look at them and be like, have you thought this through?
So, they're going to put lasers on sharks' heads.
For real, freaking lasers. Freaking sharks.
With friggin' lasers on their heads. Yeah, I've heard about the Nazi sun gun. It reminds me of rods from the gods.
Yeah, that one makes me...
And I'd much rather have that on my screen than Nazi stuff. No one likes Nazis.
Other sadder Nazis.
The amount of energy required to get a tungsten rod into space is astronomical, and it would be cheaper to just deliver nuclear warheads to an entire country at the same time. That's why we don't have rods from the gods.
I'm okay with that. I am okay with not having rods from the gods. If we explain to them what a rod from the god is, it's terrifying.
So rods from the gods is literally just a big old tungsten rod, super dense, super heavy material, hoisted up into orbit and then dropped at orbital velocities into the planets. It will hit with enough kinetic energy that the energy released will be equal to a nuclear bomb without all the fallout and radiation and crap. And the farther you get it from the Earth, the bigger the impact without changing the side of the rod.
Right.
And because it's tungsten and so heavy and so dense and shaped like a dart, the atmosphere doesn't slow it down basically at all.
Right.
So you're hitting things at orbital velocity with something that weighs as much as a building.
Yeah.
But that also means you have to hoist a building into orbit.
I mean, at some point, that doesn't matter. Well, we do that all the time.
Yeah, just the launch vehicle. The launch vehicle would have to be able to carry a building into orbit.
Well,
because the rod is inert.
Couldn't we make it not? Couldn't we just strap some rockets on it and just send it, like, full send?
Well, then it wouldn't be orbital velocity.
Why not?
It would be suborbital, unless you wanted to stay up there. But the level of... The engineering involved in getting a tungsten rod into orbit on its own, just the engineering for that feat, doesn't matter how you do it, is insane. Because the amount of energy required to get something to orbit. And the cost. Currently, it is cheaper now than ever to LFO. LEO, not LFO. So the cost of 1 pound to low Earth orbit is $1,500, and you'd need to hoist up 10 to 20 tons of tungsten.
Okay. I mean, we've done stupider things.
Yeah, true. And mind you, that's with the Falcon 9, which is the cheapest ever it's been to hoist a pound to orbit.
Okay. Fair enough.
There's not even a launch vehicle capable of lifting that much.
Yet.
Well, Elon keeps up on his shit, we'll be able to do it.
So, do you want us to talk about strapping rockets to other stupid shit?
What, the German rocket planes?
No. Okay. I'm going to butcher this name, too. The Panjan drum.
I don't know if I've heard of this one.
Oh, I hadn't, and I'm very excited. Okay, so this is another English delightful creation.
Okay.
We're talking World War II. And how do you get past the barriers on the beaches and such? And you've got to make a hole big enough for a tank.
Yeah.
Or some sort of landing device. Well, the English decided to take 2 giant wheels.
Okay. Oh, yep. Uh-huh.
And strap...
rockets to them. What's the name of that thing?
Panjan drum. PANJANDRUM. There it is. They strapped 2 giant wheels. This center area that would be a car, essentially, if it was a vehicle, is explosives.
Yes.
And then...
it unravels the explosives, gets the end, and detonates them all.
And these, around the tires, are rockets. This is so exciting for me.
This led to a modern invention that actually clears minefields very effectively.
Yes, it's the one where you, like, lay out stuff, right?
It's called a line charge. It is a spicy rope on a rocket. So you fire the rocket over the minefield, it pulls out the spicy rope, then you detonate the spicy rope.
Okay.
Which clears a path exactly wide enough to get tanks through.
Do you know why the Panjan drum didn't work?
Because it goes fucking bananas. The videos are hilarious.
It went ape shit. Okay, so this is the Navy testing this. And they are trying this out. They are full send.
Ew.
Ew. What? And sometimes it would go forward. Sometimes it would go back into the ocean.
Well, this is a successful test. That's
Yes,
not what
this
we're
is a
looking for.
that's a quality test. Sometimes it would drive itself directly at the naval brass.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it would
And-
spin around out in place and then come right back into the water.
And it went directly at the naval brass and then
There we
just pissed off some other direction. The rockets were not.
Can you imagine the psychological effect of just releasing a wire spool of death upon your enemies?
For real.
It's completely uncontrolled and makes no sense. Doesn't go up hills very well.
It does.
It likes to turn around and come back.
And yeah, it's fully unpredictable. You can't counter something if it doesn't even know what itself is doing.
So, actually, the reason the rolling rocket bomb, that's the name I knew it by. The rolling rocket bomb was originally produced, wasn't necessarily just for clearing the beaches. They were developing it for the Siegfried Line. All the anti-tank and mines at the Siegfried Line, there's Dragon's Teeth the entire way. It's the single largest military project ever. Siegfried.
Yep, you're good. If you... Close enough.
So it was lined with dragon's teeth for hundreds of miles with mines and trenches, and trying to clear the mines out of the dragon's teeth and blow up enough of the concrete to get tanks through was the largest logistical feat that was ever supposed to happen. This was this big issue. The United States Marines, I believe it was.
Of
It
course.
might have been the paratroopers. But one of them drove up to it and went, give me the tractor. They piled dirt over the top and drove over it.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the English are developing huge explosive technologies and new bomb types and these rolling wheels of death to lay charges to try to clear a path, and the U.S. just shows up with a tractor. It was defeated by a tractor.
Americans spent millions of dollars
Developing a pen.
developing a pen that would write upside down, inside out, in space, underwater, everywhere, to take onto the space station.
Yep.
You want to know what the Russians did?
They brought a pencil.
They brought a pencil. Yes, the pen is incredibly useful and an amazing piece of technology.
I actually love the...
We could have also brought a pencil. He loves this pen.
It is a good pen. It writes upside down, backwards, in the vacuum of space, under, it can survive 300 degrees temperature, negative 300 degrees temperature. It is compact, light, that when the case opens, it makes it long enough to draw with, but it's short enough that it doesn't have any extra waste. I love the Fisher Space Pen.
Did you have one?
Yes.
Okay, I've
owned several of them.
You used
But we
to,
spent billions of dollars to develop this stupid pen, and then the Russians solved the problem by bringing a pencil.
Yep. Sounds about right.
There's the Apollo version, $800.
That is a gorgeous pen.
They write so nice, too.
I was going to ask, do they write real nice? I bet they do.
I want this. Anyway, sorry, off track.
Oh, that's okay.
So the spinning wheel of death reminds me of the Soviets and their dogs, their anti-tank dogs.
Oh, yes.
So the Soviets wanted to find a cheap and effective way of dealing with German tanks. So what they did was they took a bunch of dogs and they trained them to run underneath tanks. And the thought was that they would strap them with an explosive satchel. The dog would run under the tank. The vest would go off, killing the dog, blowing up the tank, and disabling the tank, which was all fine and good. They went through the training. It's horrible that they're using dogs for this, but they went through the training, and when it finally came time, they rolled out the first couple of dog units. They released them on the battlefield. They ran under Soviet tanks and exploded because they trained them on Soviet tanks, not German ones.
Yep.
So every dog that they, decided to make unalive itself took out a member of the people that trained them to do it, and that is comedic, cosmic justice if I have ever heard of it.
Massive amounts of irony. Giant irony. So, if we're talking about the Russians using dogs, let's talk about the Americans using cats.
Okay, yeah, I don't know about the cats one. I thought we were going to
Project-
go bats next.
Project Acoustic Kitty.
Okay,
So, this was Cold War,
birds work for the bourgeoisie. Sorry.
which explains why pigeons didn't work.
Pigeon bombs.
pigeon bombs is
Okay.
one of my objects. So, Project Acoustic Kitty. Cold War, we are trying to figure out the best way to spy on the Russians in a low-key manner. Well, what's more, inobtrusive than a random kitty cat? Everyone loves random kitty cats.
Yeah, they exist everywhere now.
Right? So maybe we should put a radio antenna in their tail and a recording device and a battery inside of them and send them on their merry way to go hang out with the Russians. Brilliant plan. It was working like a dream during training, during testing, quality. Okay. Want to know what happened? They released the first cat to go hang out with the Russians, and it ran under a taxi. I feel so bad. But they only managed to get the one out, and they were like, that's not...
Does your note say gay bomb?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. We'll probably circle back to that. Pigeon bombs.
Pigeon bombs. That's Project Orcon.
And so there's bird bombs, and we cannot forget the nuclear chicken landmine.
Oh my god, I forgot about the chickens.
Okay, so we'll start with the bat bomb. So, I don't remember which country it was. I could probably Google it. But someone was like, hey, we got bombs. It was the U.S.?
Oh, yeah.
So the U.S. was like, we got bombs that can be guided, but we don't have any way of guiding them. So what they did was they took a bunch of pigeons.
Oh, wait. No, I thought you said bat bombs.
Oh, bat bombs? No, I said bird bombs.
You said bat bombs and bird bombs and pigeon bombs.
Okay, we'll do bat bombs next.
Okay.
So bird bombs, the pigeon bombs, are guided bombs, glide bombs. And how they're guided is they take a pigeon and they train it to peck at pictures of ships. Now, in the front of the bomb, they've put like a little telescope, right? And when they peck the screen, it gives an input to steer the bomb. So the pigeon is used to pecking the screen and getting food. So they drop the bomb from the plane. It pecks at the picture of the German destroyer. The bomb slams into the side of the German destroyer. I don't know why they didn't... Something came up and they didn't end up actually deploying this.
I know why.
Why?
So, okay. First of all, expensive and insane. Second of all, if the missile got too far off course and the pigeon couldn't see the mark that they were supposed to be aiming for, it was pointless. So, like, let's say, the pigeon got distracted for 30 seconds and they went in the wrong direction. You're screwed because the pigeons are no longer going to be able to direct it towards its target.
There's a picture of one.
That's where did the pigeon go?
That's a V1. All right, we'll do bat bombs next because this is along the same
ridiculousness.
Using animals as weapons. And so prior to the U.S. top brass learning about the Manhattan Project, the U.S. was trying to develop a way to deal with the Japanese mainland issue. Hitting the Japanese mainland meant every single citizen was going to fight tooth and nail to the death. Surrender is not an option in their culture at this time. So, trying to come up with a way to soften Japanese for mainland invasion. Side note, we produced so many Purple Hearts in anticipation of this invasion that we still have not made any since World War II. Every Purple Heart that's been given out was made for this Japanese mainland invasion. So before the Manhattan Project was released and Top Brass knew it, they were developing something called a bat bomb. A bat bomb is a bomb with multiple storage containers that contain a bat that have an incendiary device. Mm-hmm. Japanese houses are notoriously made out of paper and wood. And bats like to hide in places during the day.
Nice and warm and cozy.
So like the eaves of, wooden houses and factories. Mm-hmm. So the thought was to drop these incendiary bats just before dawn with timed charges on their back. They would fly into the eaves of houses or warehouses to hide from the sun for the day. And then sometime in the middle of the day, they would detonate, setting large swaths of Japanese cities on fire.
Yep.
And the hope being it would overwhelm and the fires would burn out of control, because Japanese didn't have great fire control at the time either. The only reason we didn't do this is because when we went to roll the bat bombs out, and here's an actual picture of a bat bomb.
It looks like those things you put in your yard to keep bugs away.
Right? So when we went to deploy these, someone at top brass got informed, like, hey, you probably don't need to do that because we're about to drop the sun. That's the only reason they didn't see... And the beauty of this is they didn't have to train the bombs, the bats to do anything. They just had to release them.
That's what I was actually just thinking about. Like, that is so much more practical than the pigeons or the dogs, because you're just like, you're letting them do what they do naturally, which is hide.
Definitely for the next one, I recommend watching the Fat Electrician video on this.
Yes.
Because he goes into
great
depth on this. Oh, there he is, right there.
There he is.
But this is a nuclear landmine. So when in the Cold War, we were trying to figure out how to deal with a Russian invasion. And I think it was the UK was like, let's we'll bury nuclear warheads on the border, and if the Russians pass over it, they go off. But in testing, the internals, the electronics, got too cold underground, and it wouldn't detonate. So the solution was to warm it with a chicken. Right. Mm-hmm. And if no one was able to come check on it, feed the chicken, because the Russians have pushed them back, the chicken would die.
Yep.
It wouldn't get warm.
Yep.
And the bomb would go off. That was it. They used a chicken as a timer on a warhead. Well, so was the thought. And they were going to bury these things every 10 miles across the entire Russian border. And then if war broke out, they were going to pull back from the border, let all of the Russians set up lines on top of these landmines, and then a bunch of chickens die and a bunch of Russians die.
Sir, do you hear clucking?
Who comes up with this? Not only that, who pitches these ideas? I wish I could be a fly in the wall when someone goes, sir, hear me out. We take bats, we strap incendiaries on them, we drop them from planes. They find homes and blow up buildings.
Okay, so... in the process of doing the research for this one, I spent some time on cracked.com, and one of the first things in the intro paragraph is there's gotta be just a room full of stoned...
I forgot about this thing. We should also cover this thing because this fits in perfectly too.
Okay. A room of just stoned military people being like, wait, listen.
That's what think tanks are for.
Chickens, but and then everything would smell like roasted chicken. You'd know if the nuke went off. Okay, what is this?
I'm trying to think of the name. It's like Little Daisy or something like that. It's got a really cutesy name. Basically, the thing on the end is a nuke.
Yeah.
The issue with this is the guy who fires it is in the blast radius of the nuke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we built a bunch of these stupid things. The idea is you could send in troops. It takes 2 to 3 guys to carry that. You set it up. You can launch it as far as it'll go and take out a city from a couple of miles away. The problem is everyone that's in the area when that fucker goes off at the launch site is also cooked. And they're not instantly vaporized by fireball. We're talking massive dose of radiation, skin falling off.
Yeah. Okay.
They also built a... artillery version.
Okay. Was it the same issue?
That one could fire a little farther. There was a logistical issue with that one, I think.
Okay.
Fat Electrician covers both of those.
So, speaking of everyone being affected by the
radiation
issue, non-lethal military deterrents.
CS gas?
Malodorants.
Oh, ew, stink bombs.
Yep, so stink bombs, and that's part of the reason why we didn't use them. So there's a fragrance titled something to the effect of standard U.S. military restroom. Apparently, when you set off this delightful fragrance, everyone, including the people who have set it off, begins smelling like this. And it is every foul smell you have ever smelled. Everyone starts retching. So, you've got your non-lethal deterrents, but you can't really do anything because you are also retching.
Yep.
And, yeah, so it's something to the effect of standard U.S. bathroom fragrance, which is just
so American,
so unnerving.
Oh, there is one I want to cover. I don't see it on your list.
Okay, what is it?
It is definitely in the feints category. Fakes and feints.
Yeah.
So the Germans at one point during World War II built a fake airfield out of plywood and inflatable planes to try to trick the Allies into wasting a bunch of munitions to level an airfield. Mm-hmm. They pulled back most of their anti-air and left it wide open for an attack. Mm-hmm. Well, this is after Turing had cracked Enigma. So Turing had read that through communiques that they were building a fake airfield.
Yeah.
So what the UK did, well, the Allies did, because I believe the US was in on it too, was they routed their planes like they were going to attack this fake airfield, and then once they were over it, changed directions for the real airfield to allow their planes to get very close without really getting shot at. Mm-hmm. But as they passed over this fake airfield, they dropped one singular bomb that was also made out of plywood onto the runway.
I love it.
The BDE of that move is insane. Mm-hmm. They risked letting Germany know that they had cracked Enigma.
Just to be like...
Just to dunk on them. Mm-hmm. And I will absolutely always love that.
That is some, like, Acme level shit.
And it was in response, I do believe, to...
Yes. Yep, there she is.
To Allies successfully using inflatable tanks to make it seem like their numbers were bolstered to force the Germans to reposition. So the Germans are like, that's a great idea. We can use it to cost them a whole bunch of money, and then we just dropped a single fake bomb on them.
Mm-hmm. But, was it the English who had inflatable tanks and cardboard tanks?
Yeah, that was D-Day.
Yeah, and they were just like, oh... Don't look over here.
So what they did was, these weren't actually in combat, but right before D-Day, because spy planes and bombers were constantly flying over the English coast, any buildup for a naval invasion would have been...
obvious.
Very obvious. So what they did was they made all of these inflatable tanks and a bunch of cardboard planes and, like, put up tents on a different part of the UK and made it incredibly obvious that they were building up with all this fake stuff, because it looked like rows and rows of tanks getting ready to get on fake amphibious vehicles that are there too. So it looked like they were going to be hitting further east, west,
further in
closer to Poland instead of landing in France. So it looked like we were, going to jump maybe Finland, Sweden, somewhere in there to make our landing. So Hitler and the Nazis moved a whole bunch of forces to secure that beachhead, which made the D-Day landing possible, barely, because they did leave enough, but they were lower quality troops that they left to allow it. So it was inflatables that did it, and then the Germans were like, that's a great idea, and we called them on their bluff. And I'll always love that story. They used fake... Pool noodles. I would love to get a hold of one of these and get it in a lake.
Oh my god, yes. Just like...
ultimate pool floaty.
Paddle it around. What time is it? Well, how long have we been going for?
We have been going for 45 minutes.
Beautiful.
Consistently, which is not like us.
It's fairly like us. We usually don't ever shut up.
I love this image. That's one of the inflatable
Oh my
tanks.
god.
There's 4 guys carrying it.
Jesus. That is wonderful.
Yeah, fake armored cars. That's just 2 bicycles bolted together with some fabric.
Oh my god.
Here's a line of plywood tanks.
Oh my god. Wait, okay, I have a question. Are those to scale?
Yes.
Now, but is that the size of an actual tank?
Well, that's the size of an armored car.
Okay. I was like, that seems... I feel like that would be obviously, like...
The Italians made really small tanks.
Oh, like the Turk? Not quite as small as the Turk.
Yeah, Tonk is just parts of a track.
They disassemble.
But, yeah, Italian tanks are very, very little.
Oh, they're cute.
They're designed... Yeah, that's... They're designed for the beaches of the Mediterranean.
Which makes sense.
They have to be light and fast.
I was not expecting it to be that small.
Yep.
That's what she said.
You should see them in War Thunder up next to...
It's so cute.
There's a couple of pictures of them in War Thunder, which is to scale, where they're next to or in the middle of actual tank formations, and it makes them look twice
Like
as ridiculous. That one, too. The guy's head sticks out the top.
Oh my god, that seems dangerous. Oh, it's a Cybertruck.
In case you're wondering what she's talking about, this is Tonk.
That's just
That's not the real
That's
Tonk.
not Tonk, that's Tonk.
Yeah, this one's Tonk.
That's just a little baby.
It's something they made out of leftover parts in Italy.
And it's literally parked on the street corner.
Yep.
That's so cute. This is just a little baby.
Love Tonk.
Okay. Why don't you take 3 to 5 minutes?
Okay, we'll take a short break.
And we will regroup. BRB.
We're back.
Hey, Roy. Do you know about an actual flying saucer?
Yes, the Germans made a flying saucer, and so did the U.S.
Yes.
And they're horribly inefficient at flight.
Yeah.
And very unstable.
Yeah.
And they were made right around, the U.S. made theirs right around the time of the Roswell incident.
Uh-huh. Project 1794.
Is that the name of it?
Yep, it is.
My search history
It's
is...
so strange. So we paired up with the Canadians.
Yep.
And you want to know how high off the ground it could get?
Like 22 feet.
Nope.
I think was the record.
3 feet. Consistently 3 feet off the ground.
They got it 22 feet when they drove it off from something.
Ah, okay.
They wanted to see if they could get it out of ground effect if it would fly. It would not. It crashed.
Okay. And it went 35 miles an hour.
Yep.
This was...
And couldn't carry munitions because it could barely lift itself.
Yep.
And it was like $1 billion.
Yeah, and this one was...
Here's a picture of it
Cold
at
War.
full height flying.
I love it so much.
So,
I want one.
The reason this failed is they didn't actually completely understand ground effect yet.
What do you mean?
So, best example of ground effect is a helicopter will produce more thrust if it's within a certain distance of the ground, and it's a correlation to its wing surface area. So, because the air is also hitting the ground and bouncing back up, it pushes the helicopter up with more force. But once you get high enough that the air can slow down and not ricochet,
and sneak out,
the helicopter stables out. It's easier to fly, but has less lift.
Okay.
It's called ground effect, I believe. But so this craft was supposed to produce.
Oh, we're not in the thing.
Oh, poo.
That's okay. We will.
There
at
we
least
go.
I realized it that quickly.
So the issue with this guy is the thrust pushing down. The thought was that by pushing thrust down and drawing air over the surface, the wing would produce lift to make it go higher.
Okay.
So not just using the thrust of the engine to hover, but also lifting force off this. What ended up happening was the downforce of the engine was producing ground effect strong enough to lift the craft. Because the thrust to weight on that engine wasn't more than 1.5.
Okay.
Which is what's needed to gain altitude at any real noticeable measure. So they accidentally created a ground effect aircraft.
Okay.
But they thought it was going to be a lifting body, which was... They were trying to make a VTOL lifting body. This shape is perfect as a lifting body if you can get it laterally moving fast enough. But the issue is you have to tip it into the drag to do that, and there's not enough thrust to weight on the motor, on the jet to push it up high enough. And it was dealing with what the Harrier dealt with, which is the hot gases from underneath would get sucked back in, lowering the efficiency of the motor.
Right, okay.
So it was doomed to fail. They were trying to build it because of the Nazi flying saucer.
Right, but they were doing it during the Cold War.
Yes, that's not what I typed in. Okay,
do you want me to do it?
Flying saucer?
There you go.
So this is the Nazis version.
Okay.
I don't know if it ever flew. I haven't actually...
Oh, good grief.
Someone's knocking.
Hold on, guys.
Sorry
and
about that.
we're back. Our
there we go.
Next door neighbor kid
He wants to play with our kids, but our kids aren't home.
Yeah.
So this is the Nazi flying saucer. We don't know if it actually flew. We don't know a whole lot about it, but we know that it was... I think the U.S. took ownership of the plans for it.
Yes, I would imagine they did because of this is what I talked about in the last partially what I talked about in the last episode, because the book Phenomena, one or the other, is about
I gotta be careful clicking on Nazi stuff. I'm gonna end up on a list.
It's about us finding technology from the Nazis in a bunker and starting to use that to develop our own tech. And so we got a hold of a bunch of weird occult shit.
Well, the flying wing came from Germany. The rocket came from Germany. The jet engine came from Germany.
So yeah, we got, and
I mean,
okay.
if that party had focused on developing this tech without
being
genocide and
shit.
war, humanity would be so much different right now. Granted, we wouldn't have computers.
Fair.
The computer was developed to stop
combat them, yeah.
A lot of technology was developed to combat them, but the stuff that they were doing was, scientifically speaking, insane. Like,
I mean,
a flying wing, they learned more about aerodynamics.
Yeah. Is this how we got the flying Dorito?
Yeah, this is the Nazi Dorito. See? This is the Northrop one. But, yeah, the Nazis developed a flying wing before us. We took I know for a fact we took ownership of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then we figured out how it worked. Instagram, shut up.
So, scooping up tech from...
And these are our versions.
Okay. So, scooping up tech and knowledge from the Nazi bunker, we started Project Stargate.
What's Project Stargate?
Stargate was our attempt at remote viewing.
That's the German one.
Okay, so it's like a flying pancake.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like a stingray.
Mm-hmm.
See flap.
See flap flap.
It's so chubby. I can't. Oh my god.
These experiments were into a lifting body.
It's so round. It looks like a hovercat. So Stargate was what we started doing after we pulled stuff and tech and knowledge out of that German bunker.
Yeah.
We were working with, tons of legitimate psychics.
Okay.
And mediums to try and develop remote viewing. Especially remote viewing. I know the government's going to want you to think that none of this... Hold on, where's my hat? Will you get me my hat?
The cat smushed both of our hats.
Okay, well...
So it's along the lines of like MK Ultra and all that.
But minus...
The men who stare at goats.
The drugs. So this is very related to men who stare at goats. That was a later development in the project.
You know what we could do for Halloween?
Huh?
German studies into the occult.
Ooh.
They're probably the only people in history to actually put real-time energy and resources into studying the occult.
So, okay.
That would be cool.
That is actually part of the reason that we got Stargate. Because, okay, so you have to backpedal a little bit. One of Hitler's besties was like... He went to a psychic. And this psychic told him, if you do X, Y, and Z on this particular day, you'll be able to talk to the British and get them to join up with you and make a pact, and it will win the war. You want to know what happened? The English had planted a psychic for him. And they were feeding him just enough information to make it seem like this psychic actually knew what was going on and was real. And then it came time for this big to-do where he was going to meet up with the English or whatever it was. And I cannot remember precisely, but it fucked them so hard that Hitler was like, nope, we're done. I'm taking all this shit. So he went through and confiscated countrywide crystal balls, tarot decks, kidnapping mediums, psychics,
he founded
dowsing rods, crystals, anything that was occult adjacent. He was like, no, you can't have this anymore. And they just kind of, it all disappeared because the occult was very prevalent in the country beforehand. And he's like, nope, you can't do this anymore. Instead, he took it for himself, and it turned into the occult research.
Yeah, he founded a SS division battalion. I don't remember the size, but it was a decent-sized force of SS, and assigned scientists to work with them and historians to work with them to try to find lost artifacts, like the spear
that pierced Christ's side, and
the
Ark
Holy
of
Grail,
the Covenant,
the
Covenant,
the Holy Grail, and
Covenant.
They were investigating people that said to have pyrokinesis, telekinesis, any medium that seemed to stand out got interrogated and questioned. They started rounding up gypsies, because gypsies, they're said to have magical properties too.
Which is also probably why they ended up in concentration camps.
So
actually, that makes a lot of... I hadn't thought about that. I thought it was just like general Nazi horseshit. But I hadn't thought about that as the occult aspect. Interesting. So...
I actually know why specifically the gypsies.
Okay.
If you research the lore behind gypsies, them having magical properties is reinforced at least once a decade, every decade, all the way back pre-Jesus. Like, they're traveling mystics.
Okay.
They're doing tarot readings and crystal ball readings. That's what the whole group was known for.
Right.
That's why they say never trust a gypsy.
And obviously that's not great, but...
They're just showmen.
Yeah. And travelers.
Wandering oddities.
Oddities.
Because it pays the bills.
I know, right? I mean, if I could do that to pay the bills, I would.
Yeah, so we should probably dig into the occult, I think. Maybe not specifically just German occult,
but like
history.
Yeah.
Of
historical research of the occult.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So, tune in for that possibly next week. Do you know? Okay.
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man!
They're gonna get so sick of that. Edgewood is where they pulled all their MK Ultra shit. They're awful American drug experiments where they just stuck military men into
containers with
and
strobe lights, gave them LSD, and played the Barney song on repeat until they lost their mind.
Those are what the fuck? What was the word I used earlier? Non-lethal deterrence. So that was Edgewood, and Stargate was related to Edgewood, but Stargate was just us trying to
go through what the Germans had done.
Yeah, and Stargate, we actually got some decent results, but it wasn't consistent. That's the real problem.
Tinfoil hat time. I would just like to point out that the Germans put all this time, energy, and money into researching the occult, and when the U.S. got that information, they then proceeded to continue that research into the occult well into the 80s.
Into the 90s.
Possibly still going today. It's just classified. You don't put that time, money...
Possibly isn't the right word.
Yeah, it's definitely still going on. But you don't put that kind of time, money, energy, and research into something that's not showing results. Not 50 years of time. I've always thought that if there was a cult and it was real, it would be the number one thing the government would try to hide.
Yeah.
All governments would agree on this fact.
That's probably why they keep dropping us the occasional spaceship.
Tinfoil hat.
Tinfoil cube. It's probably why they keep dropping us the occasional spaceship. Because they're like, well, if we make them look over here, they're not going to be looking at our telepathic scientists. So non-lethal, gay bomb.
Is it a bomb supposed to make people gay?
So I cannot remember precisely when we came up with this. I'm assuming probably during our MK Ultra shenanigans while we were experimenting with the sonic and the stinky shit. They were trying to create a release mechanism for pheromones that would essentially incite an orgy.
Nice.
Amongst the other side, the enemy. It didn't work, clearly. but I love it.
Does remind me of another military feint.
Oh, yeah.
Labeled
that's right.
them as small, and then airdropped them over the enemy.
Uh-huh.
It's such a weird...
It's literally big dick energy.
Yep, that's exactly it.
So they were trying to say, like, these gigantic condoms...
Are smalls.
We consider them tiny. So, like, literally a dick swinging contest.
Yep. And apparently it worked.
They were trying to emasculate the Germans and just...
We'll probably do a whole episode on weird shit that we have dropped on enemies in wars that aren't...
Accurate? Or, like...
That aren't weapons. Like propaganda stuff. Pamphlets and...
That does sound
condoms
fun.
And laxative chocolate. And...
Gay pheromones. Like...
Bats.
Right? Cats. Chickens. Pigeons.
Horses.
Oh, right. Okay. So...
Reckless.
No. We'll hit reckless in a different episode. There was a thing, and it might be a feint.
Okay.
Okay. Bear with me, because I didn't do a ton of research in this, but it hit the spot. I want to say it was World War II, maybe World War I. I could be completely wrong about when it was. A horse ran into French territory and died. Was shot. Something happened. The horse died. Okay. So then the horse carcass is there. So overnight, whichever side... Stop it.
I'm trying to make it so you're visible. There you go, because you're talking.
Okay. Overnight, the horse carcass was essentially kidnapped, replaced with a papier-mâché horse carcass with a soldier inside that they used as a sniper.
Huh.
It wasn't found. The dude was just chilling in there as a sniper, and the enemy was just going around him because he was just a horse carcass.
That reminds me of probably the biggest ever in history military fake or feint.
Uh-huh.
The Trojans.
Yay. Yep.
Like, also, can you imagine being one of those soldiers in there and it's working? Have you met soldiers?
Right.
They're probably giggling.
I know, like...
How did they not get caught?
I know! like, literally, they had to, like, the soundproofing.
Right? Giant... Also, it's Troy.
Uh-huh. So it's
I don't even
Marines.
know. I don't know if soap has been invented at this point.
Oh my god, this...
The smell coming off of this horse should have given them away. Just a bunch of military men, all sweaty, in the desert, inside of a gigantic wooden horse.
And you know... It's got nostrils so that they can
hours.
get air in and out. Right. Where are they shitting?
Exactly.
Like,
this thing had to be the stinkiest object in several square miles. And they're just like, oh, big wooden horse, cool, nothing will fit in there. Like, fucking idiots.
Yeah. Okay.
Without knowing about that, I would have been like,
this is sus.
This is kind of sus.
This is weird.
Someone maybe check inside of it before we roll it into the walled city?
Right, or check to see if there is a door. Like,
set it on fire, see if anyone screams?
I know. Like, poke it with a stick.
Idiots.
Like, clearly there's a hole in the nostril. I don't know, drop like a rat down it. Just shove a rat in the nostril hole and it'll probably freak something out that's in there. Or the rat will die if it's actually just filled with...
I mean, good on them for it actually working.
I know. It's ridiculous.
If anyone at that gate had a brain stem, it wouldn't have gotten through the gate.
Well, I'm pretty sure...
Oh, we were just fighting this big army, but they pulled back for no reason and they left us a horse.
They were also shammered.
Still.
Yes, no, I know, but they were... shitty wasted.
I can tell you, me and my friend group, if someone after we got into a big fight, someone rolled a big ass horse up to my city gates, we would have burned it in our celebration. Like, woo, bonfire!
But I'm fairly certain it was also left on the beach, and they were like, oh, they left behind their giant object? This is our trophy now. Because there's two different versions, kind of. One where they left it on the beach, and one where they rolled it directly up to the building. Also, okay,
the amount of fucking effort they used to build this
yes,
thing.
thank you. So how did they not notice this thing being built?
Or people climbing into it. They would have had to build it out of sightline.
Yeah, like way out of sightline. And they would have, they would have absolutely had to have rolled it up to the building, or else they wouldn't have found it because they would have built it out of sightline. The thing is massive. Massive. Malware. Oh, God, yeah, no, that thing must have stank to high heaven.
Right? I do,
okay,
but I've met the
average
human isn't that intelligent, but still.
Here's the thing, too, like, everybody stank.
Yeah, true.
So,
okay.
like, they may not have noticed.
They may not have stood out, just got slightly stinkier.
Or a slightly different fragrance. Well, it was left behind by the other army. Of course, it's going to smell different.
I would have been super suspicious if there was a 4 or 5 story tall horse rolled up to my gate.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a gift. What am I going to do with a gigantic wooden horse?
Yeah. Yeah.
Strip it for parts. Don't even bring it inside. Strip it for parts.
And if they left it behind...
Why?
Why did they leave it behind? But also, why did they have a giant horse?
Exactly. There's nothing about this comes across as above board.
Yeah, nobody had 2 brain cells to rub together.
We left you a horse that's so large that you can't bring it inside, but we made out of a material that's going to rot. So that's a terrible gift.
Yeah.
If it was a gift. If I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And apparently it was the Greeks entering the city of Troy, not
the Troys entering
something else.
Somewhere else, yeah. Because it was during the battle of... the Trojan War.
It was Trojan War, yeah.
Do.
Pain Ray?
Pain Ray.
It's the only thing on the list.
There's not the only thing on the list, but Pain Ray was another one that was a deterrent, and it just kind of like shot you with invisible rays that were supposed to make you hurt.
Well, that actually ended up being turned into an actual sonic weapon.
Yeah.
And I know someone who's been shot with the thing.
Oh no.
And apparently it is the single most uncomfortable moment of his life.
Is it just like... blah?
It's
like antsy? Like ucky feeling?
Yes.
Or like painful?
A bit of both. It is so uncomfortable you want to climb out of your skin.
So we're talking like giving someone full body restless leg syndrome?
Yeah.
Okay.
It hurts your ears and makes your insides vibrate. It's just... It's an LRAD. That's the name of it. I can't remember the name of it.
It's giving neurotypicals autism.
Yes. And giving autism a sensory overload nightmare.
Okay.
LRAD. There it is.
Huh. Neat. So basically, it just... But... Ew. At least we finally found something that was directional.
Right. They've started using this against U.S. citizens to break up riots and stuff, which is kind of insane. It can lead to permanent hearing damage.
Speaking of hearing damage...
What?
Thunder Screech. Do you know about Thunder Screech? So, we created a supersonic plane that we were trying to not use a catapult to launch off of plane carriers. Airplane, whatever the fuck they're called. Yeah. And it was...
We're not gonna...
So...
XF-84H Thunder Screech.
So it was supersonic and had another engine or something like that.
It's got a dual prop.
Yes.
In the front.
You could hear it from 25 miles away. Mm-hmm. If you were within a certain range, it would pop your eardrums.
So do you know why it was so loud?
Because of it being... They were trying to make it so it didn't need a catapult to be launched off of
but that's not why it ended up being so loud.
Okay.
It's a supersonic plane.
Right.
But to pull it forward at those speeds, the prop has to be going faster. So the tip of each prop constantly makes sonic booms.
Oh.
Boom, 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 plus the sonic boom of the plane. Mm-hmm. So you're getting something like 11 or 12 compounding sonic booms.
Constantly.
In any moment in time.
That's horrible.
It shattered windows and blew out eardrums from people that were 4 or 5 miles away from this thing.
It was knocking people out, like,
Thunder Screech.
So yeah, that is the loudest plane.
And that's when we were like, if we're going to go supersonic, we can't use props.
They were like, okay, let's try this. And then they were like, that's not
There is a video. I'm going to save you from it. You can watch it yourselves. But there is a YouTube video of it flying by. And I just don't use headphones or make sure your volume's low.
Right?
But yeah, that's the plane.
That is awful. Okay, so we are going to go over to my notes. And we're going to putter around over here. No, that's not. Come on. Okay. So, hubby knows a little bit more about military bluffs than
It's
I
got
do.
Zay Lang here. So, I have to because it fits this perfectly, and I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner.
Do it.
Zhe Lang, I'm probably butchering that. Chinese general. At the time, he was known for laying traps and being devious and winning unconventionally against larger armies. Mm-hmm. And there was another general at the time who they considered each other rivals, who was a very solid tactician. If you faced him on the battlefield with equal numbers, he would always win. He could take out more people, but he fought very conventionally. Mm. So these two ended up at some point on opposite ends of a war.
Okay.
And Zhu Lang, knowing his enemy, knowing that his enemy knew him, set up the biggest deception ever. He had 100 men, and he was tasked with defending a town. The other general shows up to the town with something like a host of 5,000 to 10,000 men. But knowing who he was going up against, who the leader was, he sat on the gatehouse, drinking tea with the gate open. He told his men to get dressed as peasants and to fuck off. So it was just the one man versus 10,000. They turned around and left because the other general, knowing him so well, if he's sitting up there confidently drinking tea, he's got a plan that's going to work and best not walk into a trap. It was a massive bluff where a single man defended a town against an army of 10,000.
I remember that one. Okay, so I saw something.
It would not have worked on anybody else.
Right.
Anybody else would have been, oh, there's one dude and open gates, let's freaking go for it. But because that other general was cautious, he's cautious, smart, and understood Zhe Lang, he thought it was a trap. He bluffed, and it worked. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Walking back to your men, oh, we won. You guys can come back, put your uniforms on.
Yeah.
It was just you!
So I saw another one that's the same thing but opposite.
Okay.
I cannot remember what country it was because I just saw it in passing. But they only had something like 50 soldiers to protect this fort. Oh, shit. Okay. Now I'm remembering. It was the War of 1812.
Okay.
And the British knew that the Americans were intimidated by a particular group of natives.
Okay.
And so they had some of these natives on their side with them, and it was only like a handful. And then they dressed up the rest of, what the hell? I'm not getting distracted. They dressed up the rest of their fistful of soldiers to look... That's so wrong.
That's a real plane.
That is awful.
It's the Gremlin.
Oh, okay. So they dressed up the rest of their soldiers to look like these natives. And they had, a half dozen to 50 soldiers, including the natives. And they just marched them in a perfect line around the fort in circles. And they had just enough, and they spaced them out perfectly so that it looked like they had just a never-ending army protecting this fort. And the Americans were like, fuck that shit, I'm out. And they left because they had 50 soldiers in native uniforms walking in circles around a single fort.
Nice.
Right? Okay.
This is the XF-85 Goblin.
Here.
He's cute. So, this is basically the United States Air Force going, yo, dog, I heard you like airplanes, so I put an airplane on the airplane.
Oh,
It's
a tactical...
It's a bomber-launched fighter. So the idea was that you make a bomber into an aircraft carrier. The bomber can carry tons of fuel. It flies out when enemies are engaged. You drop the super accurate, the super maneuverable, super fast fighters that would be completely impractical in any other situation. They fight, they dock, they refuel, and they're good to go again. The British tried it, the Germans tried it, we tried it, and it's still horrible.
You have a harnessed attack dog attached to your harnessed attack dog.
Exactly. The funny part about this whole idea, it's been scrapped now by our government. Mm-hmm. The hardest part was the recapture.
Okay.
So
you needed like a butterfly net?
So what they did was they lowered a bar, and then the little plane has a hook, and it would come up and it would hook. But you're also in the prop wash of the plane.
Oh, uh-huh.
So that's why the idea was scrapped. The funny part is now with our refueling technology, air-to-air refueling, where you fly up and then you dock with it.
Yeah.
If you were to take that fuel hose and turn it into a wire,
uh-huh,
you could pull the plane into the other plane. So now this technology that everyone's like, it's not feasible, it'll never work.
Now it would work.
Now it would work, but they're not going to do it because they spent so much money trying to do it when you had prop wash to deal with and
right.
couldn't refuel.
That thing is adorable.
It is. I also believe they did it on that one. Mincemeat.
But that makes me think of the one that I was telling you about yesterday. Okay, so yesterday I learned about I honestly don't know if this was, it was Cold War era, so it was Korea or Vietnam. My geography is so bad, so just bear with me.
Sorry, I forgot to mute my stuff.
The Americans were in the Philippines.
Okay.
And they were fighting against the communist army in the Philippines. And they were trying to scare them off. And as husband knows, because he spent quite some time in the Philippines, there are legends and mythologies about vampires, among other things.
Yep, wok-woks, as they call them.
So the Americans took a soldier's body, poked 2 holes in it, drained the blood out of it, and then left it to be found by the communist army. And that is how they prevented the communists from coming after them in the area they were in, because they were like, oh shit, there's vampires here.
And that perpetuated the vampire problem in the Philippines. Because they, to this day, they warn you not to walk into the jungle at night because the vampires will get you.
That's another thing that I'd like to cover sometime is like where do certain myths of certain places come from kind of thing. I know we've covered it lightly in different varieties, but that would be a really fun one.
It's about that time.
It is about that time.
We're going for an hour 27 minutes, almost 28.
Okay. So guys, this coming weekend, hit us up for another episode.
Possibly.
Hopefully.
Watch the Twitters.
Yep. Watch the Twitters. Find us on Spotify. Rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
We're also on Good Pods and basically anywhere else you get podcasts by this point.
If you have someplace that you like to listen to pods and we are not there, let me know. Hit us up. Email. What else? If you have episode ideas, hit us up. Rate, review, subscribe, comment. Especially on Good Pods. Comment. That's helping us get found by more people.
Also, if you just want to email us to infodump, please do.
Yes.
We like to learn things.
Yes. Okay. I had forgotten. Did we discuss this in the last episode?
I believe we touched on it.
Okay.
At some point.
Before I forget, reminder, we want to try and do like a listener episodes. So email us, infodump. Tell us your hyper-focus.
That thing that all your friends are sick of hearing about, we want to hear.
Give it to us, okay? So, we will see you next time. And we love you guys. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, you've reached WDDST Podcast with Miss Roy and Royal Color Games. We can't come to the phone right now, but if you love what you heard, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite listening platform. Stay connected to us on Twitter and catch us live on Twitch at Royal Color Games 1. Craving more chaos? Visit our website, wddstpod.wixsite.com/we don't do small talk for merch and other updates. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you and us right now. Join our Patreon to keep this mess going and to get more bonus goodies. Until next time, embrace knowledge and embrace chaos. Oh, and if you have an episode suggestion for us, leave a message after the beep at wddstpod@gmail.com.